Hey friends, welcome back. Fall is in the air in Kentucky. It's in the 70s today. It's been rainy all day and I feel the need to bake a fresh apple cake. There are two favorite flavors for fall around this part of the country. It's kind of a fight over which will win, apple or pumpkin. I'm equal in love with both of them. So today we're going to do fresh apple cake. This is a very easy, simple recipe, and it's always a family favorite. Now, I reached out to my sister a few days ago because I could not remember the recipe that we originally used when we were growing up, and this was, oh Lord have mercy, baked all the time. The recipe that we had used came from a cookbook that was put out by Home Interior, which everybody, if you grew up around the year 70s, 80s, especially if you lived in Kentucky, you probably had something that was from Home Interior in your home. Well, the recipe came from a cookbook that I suppose their customers or distributors, however, had gotten together and compiled a cookbook. I don't have that cookbook, and I did try to search the internet for it and could not find that original recipe that we used to use, and lost mine over the years. But I have baked this one quite a few times, and this is from Paula. It's called Uncle Bob's Fresh Apple Cake, and it's just as good as any that we've ever baked before in our life. In fact, it's just delicious. It calls for cinnamon, but now if your taste buds desire for you to put a little extra spunk into it, some cloves or anything, that's up to you. Like I always tell you, do what your family likes the best, because you're cooking for your family and I'm baking for mine and cooking for mine. But we're going to get started. I'm going to first tell you all the ingredients. The first thing is we have a cup of confectioner's sugar already in a bowl. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of honey into this. Now we put our honey in this little thing. My daughter gets some coffee flavors that come in these little squirty bottles. And I actually save them for honey and things like that because we buy our honey in gallon jars from Azure Standard, and it's kind of hard to mess with a big gallon jug of honey, so we always will take enough out to refill this little container, and it makes it a lot easier when it comes out, it does. So you're going to put the 2 tablespoons of honey. Let's get out of there. Okay. I'm going to do a little scraping of it because it wants to hang on. All right, 2 tablespoons of honey, and to that 2 tablespoons of honey, you're going to measure out 2 tablespoons of milk and add to that as well. Now, I already have the milk measured out for you. And we're going to mix. I'm not going to bother whisking. I'm just going to go ahead and mix. And by the way, our oven has been, I've turned it to preheat at 325. So we're going to mix this all together. This is going to make a glaze for your cake. And we're baking this in a bundt pan, so it's going to be a bundt cake. It is really delicious, guys. You're going to love this cake. And, oh, something about the smell of some good apples in fall. It's going to make you want to light the fireplace. Not really. Well, maybe. I don't know where you live. Okay, so we're going to set that aside now. That is your glaze. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and spray my pan, baking in a bundt pan. I'm just using Baker's Joy to spray it down. And I always go over the sink because this stuff gets everywhere. And I'm not about cleaning up the mess of it. So we'll spray the bundt pan down. I'm going to set it aside till we're ready for it. Whew, I sprayed my fingers. Okay, so now we're going to, in a bowl, and I have 3 cups of apples. I've mixed them with a little bit of lemon juice to keep them from browning, so I could go ahead and cut them for you guys. 3 cups of apples. Now, this recipe actually calls for Granny Smith apples. I had Galas on hand, and I'm using them. That's something that you guys need to realize. You don't exactly have to use what apple they ask you to. Now, if you're baking a pie, you're going to want a firmer apple like a Granny Smith. But in something like this, I don't want my apples to be crispy like a pie anyway. Not crispy, but firm. And I've used galas here before in an apple cake. They turn out just fine. Delicious. This recipe also calls for walnuts. There's not one person in this house that enjoys walnuts. So we're leaving those out. My sister would definitely put the walnuts in, and my mom would too. My mom loved walnuts, but none of us like them. If you choose to put them in, it calls for how many walnuts? A cup of lightly toasted walnuts. So if you want to toast those, chopped and toast them, then that's up to you and what your family likes. So now we're going to take where am I at? So I'm using the Gala apples, and they work just fine. I'm going to go ahead and mix apples with the vanilla, which is 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and the cinnamon. That's 2 teaspoons of cinnamon as well. And I'm just going to give those a little toss. Just using my whisk, it'll be all right. To distribute the cinnamon and the vanilla through those apples. And we're going to set that aside. Now in another bowl, I'm not sure how big a bowl I want. Okay, in a separate bowl, we're going to mix together flour, baking soda, and salt. You're going to need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt. In goes our flour, baking soda, and salt. And I'm going to whisk that real good. I always like to whisk it really good. I really don't sift it for this recipe, but you will want to whisk it up real good so you don't have any lumps in it. The recipe does say to sift it, but I never have for a fresh apple cake. But sometimes we keep our flour in the freezer for the first 72 hours after we buy flour, because we usually buy it in bulk. And you need to anyway, because if there are any little bitty bug eggs in there, and yes, it happens to everybody, no matter where you shop, it will kill them. You will not have any bugs in your flour. So I do always make sure I fluff it up good at least. Now in a large bowl, I'm going to mix in my sugar. And this calls for, I'm having to look at my recipe here, 2 cups of sugar and the oil. The oil is 1 1/4 cup. And then I'm going to break 3 eggs, which I have at room temperature. They've been sitting out a while. 3 eggs. Here's my second egg going in. Now I do like to break my eggs into a separate container and then place them into the mixture, because if you ever got a hold of a bad egg, then you don't want it all in your cake batter before you're done, and then you can't get it out. So we're going to do that. Let me put all this stuff in the sink. Gotta wipe this little mess up. Y'all know I'm a mess maker. And you don't need to get the big KitchenAid out for this. This is just fine with a hand mixer. We're going to mix this up really good. Doesn't cinnamon make the house smell good? You know how they say that scents from your childhood always bring back good memories, and I sure do believe that. Okay, so we've got that mixed up really good, and then we're going to add in the dry ingredients and completely mix until they are combined. Now I'm just going to add a little at a time. When you add your dry ingredients, don't clop it in all at once. Add a little at a time, mix it. I should have set this bowl on something it's wanting to shift on me. I'm going to put it on this towel. It may run away from me if I don't. A little more. We're going to scrape our bowl down after this time. don't want to over mix this now. The one problem that I think people may have when their cakes don't turn out is I see people that will beat a cake to death. You do not want to over mix your cake, ever. You don't want to undermix it either, but you really don't want to over mix your cake, any cake. Okay, now we're going to add the rest of our flour and mix it in. Turn it on medium. You just want to mix this until it's completely combined. Have to turn it up a little bit. This is a very thick cake batter, by the way, guys. So when you go to bake this, if you make it, and I hope you guys try this out, it's really a great recipe. You're going to think, this is awfully thick batter. But once it's in that oven, and of course you've got all this liquid that's going to come out of your apples and make it very, oh, it's so moist. It's just a really delicious recipe. Your whole family's going to love it, youngest to oldest, and everybody in between. Now you can also, if you would like to make some caramel, you can make some homemade caramel and top this cake with it, but I like it with just this glaze. I know caramel and apple go really good together, but honestly, this glaze is all you need for this cake. I had seen somebody make an apple cake into a sheet cake, and they put a caramel glaze on it, and it did look really good, and I was thinking, maybe I should just make my cake with the caramel, but then I was like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Okay, so we've got this all mixed up. I'm gonna get all this batter off these beaters. I just want to go ahead, and I like to clean the batter off of my beaters.
Hey, Gigi, can I help?
Yeah, come on, I'll let you put these apples in. I'm almost done though, bud. But you're more than welcome to come put the apples in. I'm gonna set my mixer down. All you have to do, let me move these over here. You just got your stool, scoot your stool over here so you can reach stuff. All right, just dump all these apples into the bowl. Woo! Good job. Let me see if we left a lot of cinnamon behind. We did. Y'all, I scrape all that stuff out. I see people leave half their cakes in a bowl, and I'm like, that called for 2 tablespoons, and you just left 1 tablespoon in the bowl. All right, look, buds. See if you can stir it in. I'll give you a whirl at this. This is a real thick batter, not like you're used to doing. I'll hold this bowl for you because it's ridiculously hard to move. I don't know if you'll be able to do that or not. It's hard to stir, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, you want Gigi to do that, and I'll let you put the glaze on. Let me finish this, or we might be here all night if I don't. But I thank you for coming to help me. You're just going to turn these apples into the batter, guys, and it is hard. Otherwise, I'd let him take your stool, Bubs. I would let him do it, but it's kind of hard to turn these in because the batter's so thick. But it smells so good. I cannot wait for you guys to try this recipe. Your family will love it. A great cake to take to a potluck, company coming up. It's just a great cake. All the way around. And hey, let me tell you, I don't know if you can see behind me or not. Can you see the counter over there? Save your apple peelings, guys, and your cores. And if you will fill you a jar with those about halfway, 3/4 full, you can make yourself apple cider vinegar. It's not that hard. You'll want to add sugar to it so it can start a ferment. You'll leave it like that for about 3 to 4 weeks covered. 3 weeks, I think it is. I have to do it. And in a dark place, somewhere it's not getting a lot of light. And cover it. I just use coffee filters. Let me show you. I just used a coffee filter and put the ring on. This is what it looks like. That's an up close. It's starting to smell a little vinegary. And then once that is smelling real vinegary, it's probably gonna be about 3 weeks, you'll drain all those apples off and you'll have yourself some apple cider vinegar, and then stick it in your pantry and let it continue to ferment a little longer after you drain the apples off. Okay, we're going to get our pan. I think I've got it all mixed in good. Get our bundt pan over here. And we're going to put this batter in this bundt pan. This stuff is so thick, but so good. It is definitely one of my favorite cakes, other than, of course, I'm deathly in love with 3-layer cakes and all different kinds of icings. Love to decorate cakes and make good cakes, and hummingbird cakes and carrot cakes and Italian cream cakes, all those good cakes. But for a good snack cake, a good bundt cake, you won't get any better than this. Another fall favorite of ours is the Kentucky butter cake, and I may have to make that with you guys too, because it's really good. Pound cake, if you've never had that, it's really delicious. Oh, this stuff is like glue. When you make it, don't be alarmed, guys. Like I said, you're gonna think there's no way, this stuff is too thick, but that's right. That's what it's supposed to look like. It's hard to get it all. Oh, my goodness. Well, y'all know I gotta make a mess, or it's not me. But that's okay, because I'll also clean that mess up. Okay, that's enough. We're not doing any more here. If there's any left in that bowl, it'll just be there. But there's not enough. Like I said, not enough for me to say, oh, they left half the cake batter in the bowl. Do y'all watch people cook on YouTube or on Food Network or anything, and then you sit there and critique them the whole time? My family's bad about that. We're like, well, she shoulda, and she shoulda, and I don't know why she didn't this or that. And so y'all are probably doing that to me. I don't know. That's all right, though, because that's what we all do, I guess. Okay, this is going into the oven at 325, and for how long, Crystal? For 90 minutes. Okay. I didn't remember it cooking that long, but I guess so. If it is a shorter time, I will let you guys know. I'm going to put this in the oven, and when timer goes off, I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, I think this thing is done, y'all. There was 10 minutes left, but it's finished. It's done. There was 10 minutes left on the timer, so an hour and 20 minutes is how long it took in my oven at 325. Now, I'm supposed to let this cake sit a while before I remove it from the pan, so I'm going to go ahead and let that happen, and then we'll show you guys the final result. It smells so stinking good. All right, well, this said to let it sit for like an hour before I take it out of the pan. However, it's already 10 o'clock at night, and I don't want to be up till midnight over this cake, so I'm going to go ahead actually and try to get it out turn it out. If this cake falls apart, we're still eating it, okay? But I hope it doesn't. It's not ever good to not follow directions, but tonight, here we go. Look where it dumped all over it. Oh, yes, hallelujah. Turned out just fine. And I had it sitting here for about, what was it, Crystal? 20 minutes, maybe. And y'all know what I'm going to do? I'm going to break the rules a little bit more, because this is our cake. And we are going to go ahead and drizzle this hot cake. Actually, you know what? I'm going to get some Hang on, go ahead and break all the rules. It's our cake. I'm going to do it kind of like a Kentucky butter cake would be, and go ahead and put this glaze on while it's still nice and warm. And I'm just going to take this skewer and poke holes in it and let some of that glaze get down inside of the cake. Now, is this what the recipe calls for? No. But will it be good? Well, yeah. It's going to be messy too, but that's okay. Because I want to get this cake done tonight. And I'm telling you, if you guys have ever had a Kentucky butter cake, I'm going to have to bake one on here because they are the most wonderful pound cake. And if you've ever made one, you know you pour that hot buttery sauce over the cake after you poke about 40 or 50 holes in it. It's delicious. One of our favorites. But this will be messy and it's going to be good and gooey. And I won't put all the glaze on it right now. But you guys, I want to cut a piece of it before I go. So that's why I'm actually doing this for you. It's going to run everywhere. And that's okay. I'm going to put just enough of it on here so I can cut a piece and show y'all how this cake looks on the inside. These cakes are amazing. I really want you guys to try this recipe. I really do. I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece. I know little Bentley will have a piece before he goes to bed. And you know I'm going to have to have a taste test. So moist, you guys. You can see the apples in there. It's just such a wonderful cake. You've got to give it a try. I'm going to put the link down below where you can find this recipe. And I promise you, you will not regret making this cake. You want to tell everybody bye, Bentley? And I'll give you a piece of cake.
And make sure to subscribe. I love you.
I'm going to give this guy a piece of cake. And anybody else want a piece of cake? This is hot and fresh. I know my son-in-law will too. Make this cake, guys. It's amazing. Y'all, thanks for joining us again. And be blessed.